We're expecting a massive week next week in terms of for the hyperscalers. I think Apple, the bears have owned this narrative. They will prove the doubters. A little weak in terms of China. I think overall they actually beat numbers. I think Apple is one that this sort of marks the bottom that we believe we'll see for the year in Apple.
Dan Ives predicts a key week for tech, with Apple poised to defy bearish expectations and mark a stock bottom despite concerns over soft iPhone sales in China. He highlights Apple's strong cash flow growth and upcoming AI initiatives, reinforcing its long-term value. He also sees Palantir as a top AI software play, comparing its potential to Oracle or Salesforce. With its stock up 370% in the past year, Ives views Palantir as critical to the AI infrastructure revolution, offering substantial growth opportunities. Lastly, Ives remains bullish on AI's transformative potential, spotlighting Nvidia's role in driving innovation despite market fluctuations. He expects AI to reshape industries, fueling long-term tech growth.
Dan, let's go there, spend a little bit more time on Apple. The stock is down about 10% year to date, which is really unusual for that name here. Give us what the concerns are, specifically about phone sales in China.
Look, and let's go through numbers too. Look, China has been soft clearly the last few quarters in terms of what we've seen with the headwinds there in the market. But when it comes to the AI release, Apple Intelligence, that we believe that's actually not going to get released till April. Baidu, Tencent, ByteDance likely going to be the partner. Is it a little softer? It's about 2 to 3% softer in China. So just to put numbers around it, Street was anticipating 225 million units for the year. We believe right now it's tracking about 230 million, 5 million ahead. The best case was 240 million. So maybe that's off the table. Paul and Tom, I think this is as way overdone sell-off as I've seen on Apple in a number of years.
Dan, talk to us about Palantir. That's a name that maybe not a lot of people know when they think about these big tech stocks. And I know you guys have been aggressive on this name, and it's been just such a great performer. Over the trailing 12 months, the stock's up 370%. Give us your call on Palantir.
I believe it's the next Oracle or Salesforce. Because my view when it comes to the AI revolution, this is probably the best software pure play in the market. Just like Nvidia on chips, this is how I view where Palantir is on the software side. And that's why, look, many have hated this. They hated this as a teenager to start the year 12, 13. And they despise it as a senior citizen living in Florida at 80, right? So,
right.
And I believe this could ultimately be a stock that ultimately, when you look out, who could be the next Oracle Salesforce? I think it's Palantir.
Dan, go down the Apple income statement. Okay, I got single-digit revenue growth, and the gloom crew hangs on that, given the multiple 20, 30, wherever the multiple is. But the magic happens down the income statement to generate cash. Is any part of that system, given Paul's question on China, or frankly, another 6 worries, like, is what's going to happen in Silos season 3. But with any worries of Apple, is the cash generating machine broken?
Free cash flow is going to increase 12 to 15% the next 2 to 3 years.
So what happens, what happens at the end of the month? At 4:22 p.m., when we go, OMG, China was light, but cash flow's up how much, Dan?
I believe cash flows probably beats 3 to 5%, and free cash flow for the year will be up 12 to 15%, which is why I believe this marks the bottom. I believe Apple is a stock.
Okay, so, good morning, Mr. Buffet. Mr. Buffet likes to listen when Dan Ives is on. Are you telling Warren Buffett at Berkshire to buy more Apple?
Oh, I think it's a table pounder because it's my view. You talk about Apple being light in the quarter, but they're going to announce an Apple Intelligent partner in the next few months. And then you ultimately are going to have 25% of the world's population. When they access AI, it's going to go through an Apple device. So my view is just, it's one, that's how so many have missed the last $2.5 trillion in market cap in Apple. They focus on the bears coming out, they own the narrative, they scare white knuckles, and then Cook and Cupertino come through and you're like, And that continues to be the mantra here. This is a name you own. You don't sell Apple, you own it.
But is it your understanding or expectation that SoftBank will retain its current enormous stake in ARM?
Yeah, I can't really comment on that, David, but as you and I have chatted about many times, Masa loves ARM. Masa loves ARM as I love ARM. And he also loves the long-term potential of the company. So can't comment any further.
Renee, you know, the numbers are staggering. We talk about them all the time. I mean, $500 billion here, another $100 billion there. I mean, my God. Do you believe that the return will be justified in the enormous expense that is taking place right now when it comes to the applications from AI that we're all anticipating?
You know, David, you and I have chatted about this many times. I am very much an AI bull. When you look at some of the things that AI will be able to enable, let's just look at drug investment and drug research. Drugs can take 10 to 20 years to develop. When you start at the base level, 95% of those efforts fail. We still do lab testing on animals. Approvals take a long time. AI can shrink all of those development times, not only in terms of developing great drugs faster and sooner, but developing drugs that we can't even do today, i.e. cancer drugs that are particular to your own genome sequence. So I think there will be huge return in many disruptive areas. Medicine is one of the areas I'm personally most excited about.
Tony, in looking at the holdings and your percentage ownership in your science and technology fund, no surprise, Nvidia obviously is your largest holding, at least as the numbers I have, which may be slightly dated. You know, I do notice Apple perhaps underweight, at least in terms of a reflection of its market cap versus some of the others. Why is that?
Yeah, I think that, I think over the long term, like I am very bullish on this AI infrastructure build out. You kind of have to build out the infrastructure and then develop the apps on it. You know, I think Apple continues to be a great company. I don't think you can count them out on any means. Their ecosystem is still quite strong. I think that when, my framework, we're always like adjusting, positions, but I like both companies long term. I do think that in this we are in the early innings of AI infrastructure build out. Nvidia continues to be the platform that everybody kind of is building on, and you look at their new products that are just improving the performance, by leaps and bounds. And so, I think that's what's exciting. And I think the Stargate news, a lot of the infrastructure is still going to be built on Nvidia because they're a full stack company. So, to me, I think that's what's exciting about the multi-year here.
All right, Lauren, you're looking at some movers. Micron, we heard that once already today. What's going on?
Oh, so I'm being repetitive. Okay.
No. It was DR Barton who said buy Micron.
Well, maybe you want to buy it on this dip. It's down almost 5% at 104. So Nvidia, you can see Broadcom, all the chip makers are considerably lower. Here's the reason. Okay. A chip maker out of South Korea, SK Hynix, a customer to Nvidia, a partner, reported record profits for the last quarter, but their outlook was weak, and they specifically cited a slowdown in smartphone sales, and that's put a chill throughout that sector.
Okay.
And a warning from South Korean chip maker SK Hynix, sending its customer Nvidia, as well as a lot of other U.S. chip makers, they are lower on the session. As you can see, Nvidia off just a little bit, Micron down 4%, Broadcom off more than 1%. These moves all come after SK Hynix posted a record profit for the fourth quarter, but warned of steeper demand declines in commodity memory chips.
With SK Hynix and whatnot, I know you've got a chart that looks at Nvidia. You watch its correlation with silver. Hit me with that real quick, KG, because we're definitely going to be watching the chips closely today.
Yeah, and we should be watching them closely for the next couple of days and weeks here. But, there actually has been a very tight correlation over the last year. Now, this is a 6-month chart, but over the last year of silver and chips in general, especially when you're looking at Nvidia, is kind of that growth story. Obviously, silver is kind of used in these GPUs. But what I find actually very interesting here, among all of the news that we've seen with potentially $500 billion from the Stargate deal, along with, some chatter, there were some news reports that, Saudi Arabia might be investing up to $600 billion here in the United States as well. On top of that, that's a growth story that's going to require a lot of infrastructure, that's going to require a lot of material. But if you kind of notice, none of the material related commodities are actually catching a bid off of any of this news. In fact, you're seeing a pretty decent divergence. So I'm just going to be looking at this correlation here to see if it comes back in a line here. And is it going to be silver kind of catching up to what Nvidia has done over the last couple of trading sessions? Or do we see a breakdown from Nvidia? Usually what we've seen in the past over the last year and a half is that silver leads Nvidia, silver leads the chips. Right now, that might not be the case. Maybe there might be a disconnect here, but this is something that I've been watching a lot lately, and it's been pretty much on the mark all last year. Right now, that massive divergence is one of the bigger ones that I've seen for a long time here.
Okay. Interesting. All right, so maybe Nvidia needs to close that gap, or we get a big rally in silver, but I kind of feel like we know what's driving the bus generally. So we'll see that correlation maybe close.
Tech stocks face a critical week ahead, with Apple and Nvidia taking center stage. Analysts expect Apple to beat expectations despite China-related concerns, supported by strong free cash flow growth and upcoming AI initiative. Nvidia continues to dominate the AI infrastructure space, driving innovation even as chip demand fluctuates. Palantir, with its impressive 370% stock surge, is seen as a rising AI leader, akin to Oracle or Salesforce. AI's transformative potential, particularly in fields like personalized medicine and drug development, highlights the sector's long-term growth prospects. Investors remain bullish on the tech giants, betting on their ability to navigate challenges and seize new opportunities. Will Apple's AI initiatives secure its market leadership against rising competition? Which companies besides Nvidia and Palantir are poised to shape the future of AI?